most common which I've heard is a sleep divorce.
I don't get into, hey, are you happy with your intimacy life or whatever, but we do talk about relationship with the spouse.
Extramarital relationships are rampant because people are believing that if I am not happy in one relationship, I've got a right to be in it.
You don't realize the impact we are having on the emotion of the person you're speaking with. So even though you're making them the subject of your anger or your frustration,
our tendency is to get defensive, right? And then without listening to them, we start proving to them what I did right and how I am doing everything right and you are doing anything wrong.
Every relationship problem that you have with your partner, your children, your team members, your parents, starts in the same place. It starts with you.
I'm Dr. Sapna Sharma. I've spent 20 years as a relationship and parenting counselor, sitting across from people who are hurting, confused, and looking for answers, but all in the wrong places.
And I'm Raju Panjwani, 2 marriages, loss, rebuilding, and I've spent years coaching senior leaders on what it actually takes to show up consciously at work and at home.
So here together we are going to have the conversations most people avoid. There's no prescription here, just conversations.
About love, about marriage, heartbreaks, and what it really takes to grow. We hope this strikes a chord with you, and we hope you join us. This is the Relationships and Marriage Podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Relationships and Marriage Podcast. We're very excited today, to talk about this subject called non-divorce divorce. I think I heard it from you, Sapna, at some point or in our conversations, but I was curious what that meant, and then we started to talk about that. So today we're going to talk about what it means. So maybe you start with you, Sapna. What are non-divorce divorces?
I've been reading up a lot on this. There's new terminologies which have come up. Every time I have a young couple coming to me, they come up with some very interesting terminologies. And then I have to really dig into the internet to find out what it actually means and what is happening. And when I was doing that, a lot of new terms came up. Not all of them are very common, but a lot of new terms came up. So basically, what I would understand by what we are trying to talk about, the divorce, non-divorce divorce. Many couples who decide not to to divorce legally may resort to some other kind of living arrangement. So they do not break the marriage, they break certain parts of the marriages. It's got different kinds of reasons for that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just read up the list which I have with me, the types of non-divorce divorce.
Before you do though, I'm just curious. So the patients that you have, or people who come, your clients rather, whatever you call them, patients? I guess you call them patients. Clients. So they come into you, and how come they're coining these phrases, this terminology? Is it?
So I would say that particular person or that couple is coining it, but it's in their lingo. It might be a new generation language. New words keep coming up among the newer generations, and we may not be aware of them always.
I see.
And along the way, some people keep, coining new terms. They know it more than us.
Okay. That's very interesting. Okay, so go ahead. So you're reading a list of what?
Yes, I'm going to read out a list of the terminologies which I've been using. The most common which I've heard is a sleep divorce.
Sleep divorce, okay.
Sleep divorce. It's where the partners decide to sleep in separate rooms. Okay, this might be for different reasons, like some practical reasons, because one partner is either snoring, or usually this happens when one partner insists on sleeping with a child. And also it may happen, during menopause or around pregnancy, when the woman is hormonal, she gets hot flushes, she needs colder room, or different requirements for sleep time.
Got it.
Okay, so instead of one having to compromise, sleep in separate rooms so that both of them can sleep comfortably. So among all
the term divorce, when it comes to sleep, people do sleep in different rooms. They have a good marriage, but
that's the terminology that they use. Sleep divorce. It's only for the sake of sleeping together they are divorced. Because traditionally, the husband and wife are supposed to sleep in the same bed.
Right. Got it.
So that's why the term sleep divorce.
Okay.
Then I have also heard there's something called the social media divorce. This is very interesting, where the couple remove each other from their social media or stop appearing together in an online life. Okay. So there are various reasons again for this. It might be that one of them stalks or makes comments or does not like the other person's pictures or any of those things. Or it might be just sometimes be out of spite that, you don't like my pictures ever. You like someone else's pictures. I don't want you to have. Whatever might be the reason. But they do it sometimes. I've heard of financial divorce.
Hmm.
And this is happening more and more where the partners completely separate their finances, bank accounts,
Hmm.
investments,
I see.
spending, and everything. So even if they are married, they are together, but they want to keep all their finances separately. This bedroom divorce, this is a little difference from sleep divorce. Sleep divorce is essentially for the sake of getting good sleep, that they sleep in
Right.
separate rooms. But bedroom divorce can be, there's a long absence of sexual intimacy. And they might be sleeping in the same room, but there is absolutely no physical sexual intimacy among them. So they're still living together, they're married. And trust me, there are many, many couples in this category.
Mhm.
And many of these who socially appear to be a normal, happy couple.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they have come to terms with it that, okay, there won't be any sexual intimacy between us. Emotional divorces, of course, are very, very common when the emotional bond ends and they are coexisting for maybe for the sake of children, for social reasons, for the sake of the parents or whatever, but they don't feel any connection among them. So that's emotional. Then there is parenting divorce. They do not believe in the same parenting style, and there's a constant fight in their styles of parenting. So they just decide to do it their own ways. So there are a lot of these types. There's lifestyle divorces also there
Mhm.
where couples lead in completely different lifestyles, routines, social lives. The thing is that they are married, they're legally married, so they're living in the same house. Sometimes it might also be a good understanding between two partners, the partners who love each other, but they realize that it's better to keep our lifestyles separate because we're totally different people.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
I think it's more divorce that when we picked this topic, it was like, oh, what are you saying about divorce? When
there's holiday divorce
you
also.
together, you're not divorced. It just means that it's a non-divorce for that reason. That it's like,
So
either you are
basically,
roommates, as we talked about last time. Yeah,
because you realize that some aspects of your life don't match
yeah,
and you decide, I feel maturely, to let's keep
yeah.
this part of our life separate.
Right.
Like there's holiday divorce. I have known couples who end up fighting bitterly when they go on holidays together. So that's when they stop spending the holidays together and they might just, decide to go in two different directions altogether whenever they have
Right.
to. Yeah.
That's right. So the question is, how do we experience these? I mean, I have not experienced some. Maybe there are elements of that in different ways. And my clients, who are talking, usually the ones I've been recently talking to are men, and we don't go deep down into this relationship thing because, well, but I do address relationships with them. So the question is,
Mhm.
I don't get into, hey, are you happy with your intimacy life or whatever? But we do talk about relationship with the spouse because that is the fundamental factor in anybody's existence. Particularly men, as I said, and a lot of them are Indian men who are senior executives and identify entirely with their careers. And
Mhm.
so they may be experiencing some of this
Yeah.
syndrome, right, that you described. But we don't know that
We don't
someone
know,
like you,
and interestingly, they might not know it also.
well, that's true too. They may just be unaware.
Yes, it's just happening. They've just grown into it. They've just found out their own ways to, have a peaceful coexistence
Yeah.
because that's what mature people are supposed to do. That's what parents are supposed to do for the sake of their children. So they might grow apart and they might slowly, stop involving each other in maybe their in important conversations or. And of course, like I mentioned, that sexual intimacy missing in so many couples. Like you will be surprised that it's like
Mhm.
non-existent among so many couples. Somehow, at least in Indian context, I find that they start believing that this is what happens after some time in marriage. It's very difficult for me to explain to them, that no, it is not supposed to happen this. It's not
Mm.
that you can have a healthy sexual life till the day you die. But in Indian context, it's very difficult to explain this because I see
Mm.
that many educated couples also say that no, that's not a big deal because we are already in our 40s, so we're not supposed to have. That's
Ah,
how they believe that this is how it is.
exactly. No, it's very common. So maybe we should explore not only what it is, but why does it happen?
Yeah, like I
Staying
said,
together with children, as you say, that's an emotional, there's no emotion. Otherwise, it's just a distant marriage and you just keep going.
yeah,
So,
basically, some parts of your marriage are not working. Like you never see eye to eye on how the finances are to be managed.
right.
And that's the constant bone of contention among the two people. And so finally, they decide that, okay, you take care of your part and I'll take care of my part, and let's not get into this at all. Sometimes it's just that out of anger, people might, slowly start drifting apart, like the social media or the digital this thing that you remove your partner from your social media altogether. That might be the reason. Like I said, sleep divorces typically because, eventually you realize that my night sleep is very important. I have to go to work in the morning, or I have to tend to things in the morning, right? So
Yeah.
we are fine. We are good together. I love you very much, but bye bye. I'm sleeping in another room. I can't
Right.
take your snoring anymore. So it's a
I think
convenience, basically a decision not to divorce or not to separate legally, but to make the life or the
you
togetherness.
you say this often in the Indian context, but it's also true for the American context, really, because you could say there's ease of divorce in this country, right? You could just get divorced, but it's not that easy because
Mm.
particularly if there are children involved, it's never emotionally easy to do this. And the fact of a separation to get to the divorce sometimes certain states here, because everything is a state driven thing here, but primarily in most states, let's say if you are separate for a year and you can prove that you were separate for a year, you can theoretically get divorced, right, without any complications. But there are typically not that's not a typical thing because people
Yeah.
get emotionally involved, whether it's, as you said, anger, frustration, disagreeing on many things, but they have children, so that's
Mm.
sometimes the driver. And so some people stay together largely because of finances, because one person has earned, let's say, usually the man, but not necessarily the man anymore, made the money over the years and they've been providing, have built the wealth, but now it's, the money is stuck or there is, it's not liquid. So you're on paper very wealthy, but, a woman who's been a mother for 20, 30, 40 years, maybe 20, 30 years, doesn't know how to make a living separately, right? So and may not get divorced. So that's a great example of a convenience of marriage, but not getting divorced. In your experience, does it play? People that come to you, like what do they do with their intimacy because they're not getting it in the marriage?
In the Indian context, let me share with you that at least among the earlier generation, okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's not like the generations before Gen Zs or even
Okay. Of
before that. Casual sex is not very like easily acceptable, or you can't just approach anyone for non-commitment sex,
course, yeah.
right? So either it's people who are getting into emotional relationships
Uh
outside the
huh.
marriages. The number of extramarital relationships have grown a lot. And as I understand it, it usually starts from the emotional vacuum. It's not always about the physical. The physical follows,
Yeah,
but
exactly. I was coming to that. Emotional could lead to physical, right?
yes,
Clearly.
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
But the thing is, like, when you're sitting in a society, particularly India, it's very hard to accept. Okay, I'm not divorced, but I'm going through this waiting. Let's say it's a financial non-divorce divorce, right? Same thing. You're not getting divorced. You're just there, and then there's always this tussle about hey, are you intimate with somebody? That sort of thing.
Right. Yes.
How do you address
And
that?
yes, that also depends upon how both the people in that marriage are looking at this aspect. If they are
Right.
mature, they might just discuss that, that let's keep the marriage as it is legally, but then we can go our separate ways. We do have the concept of open marriages also, but we will be taking up the topics of, like, we are talking about the non-divorce divorces, then we'll be talking about the different types of marriages also, which are
Yeah.
happening
Very.
these days and going on. We'll talk about that in detail in some other session, but
Or-
yeah, some people these days do have each other's consent to, maybe seek for intimacy outside, but stay in the marriage.
And is
That's
there legal implications in India for that or not really?
no legal.
Okay.
In fact, a lot of extramarital things have been made legal by the systems recently in different
Hmm.
rulings that I have been reading. There are more complications in that, extramarital relations. You might have to take the responsibility financially of the other person also if she claims that you have been
Hmm.
in an extramarital relationship with her. But that's a different topic altogether. But other than that, it's usually an hush hush thing because
Hmm.
socially also it is not very acceptable. I guess in no society it is really acceptable that you're a married person and you're going around with someone else.
Yeah.
So it's quite a hush hush thing, but it is happening. Definitely it is happening.
Yeah, I mean, this is our societal construct has its positives and negatives, right? As we were talking, I think one of our previous episodes. You can't put a wrapper of legal on everything, right, in life. So
Right.
if this is the way this arrangement has to be this way, then one can say, who cares about society? But you live in, if it's a small place, it's a different implication versus in a big
Because
city,
the
right?
society itself, is your parents, your
Yeah,
colleagues, and maybe your children. So you can't say that, I don't care about the society. These are the
that's
people who the society is. So you do care about them. We are somewhere stuck where we want to get married at certain point of time. But then we live in times where both the men and women have their own opinions about everything. They have their likes and dislikes. It's all becoming more and more concrete and stronger. We are more about self. Me, I want this, I like this. My likes and dislikes are very solid, and I'm expressing them. So I always say that, the earlier marriages that would actually last a lifetime, you know,
Mm.
they were not the marriages without problems.
Of course. So what
They,
makes that marriage work versus like others that don't?
So in
In
Indian
yours?
context, definitely I can say that those marriages worked because the societies were more close knit. Everyone was
Mhm.
close knit. People used to live in extended families. So a lot of people would influence what the couple wanted to do or did not want to do. But most importantly, the women were usually not educated or not earning separately for themselves, right? So for them, separate existence in any way was not a question.
Right.
Also, when Indian society as such was not rich financially, the parents would not want to take the responsibility of the girl again once she is married.
Right.
Right? Today's parents just tell their daughter if there's any problem, come back home, but they could not. Right? For them, getting a daughter married was like one big thing, responsibility getting done with.
Right.
And plus, the social stigmas around divorces and separations were huge. So,
Mhm.
for all of these reasons, even if there was domestic abuse or even extramaritals going on, yet divorces would not be considered because they were not viable at
Right.
all. Today, divorces are viable, but then, like we were talking, they are being complicated by so many things.
Exactly. I don't think it's the same thing here, but it's very much a human condition, right? That we go
Yeah,
through
I
these
think
things.
the situations are the same inside the families. How
Right.
we are expressing now, that is changing. Either
Correct.
we are going in for frank divorces
Mhm.
or we are resorting to all kinds of this thing that
Arrangements.
I had a couple who were both heavily invested in a company,
Mhm.
and it was a very complicated financial thing that was going on between the two of them. So getting legally divorced was not an option for them at all. So they were
Exactly.
living separately. They were living in different houses and living like divorced couples, having their own separate lives. But they could not considering legal divorce, legal separation, because that would then mean a lot of financial issues cropping up. So
Well, that's
that,
the case I was referring to earlier. It's so similar, right? Financial, non-divorce,
yeah,
financial. They have to stay together, but they were not living in the same group. They aren't in this particular
right.
case. So it's separate. But then the question comes up back to having these, is that an extramarital relationship or what is it? But as you said, depends on mutual consent. It's okay, I'm okay.
Let me tell you, Raju, that divorce or no divorce, extramarital relationships are rampant because people are believing that if I am not happy in one relationship, I've got a right to be in another.
So are we going to judge that or no?
No, we don't judge anything.
Okay.
We don't judge
So
anything.
for those listening, watching us thus far, what should they walk away with from, okay, I'm in this situation. I'm going through this. I'm a roommate, let's say, or I'm in a sleep divorce. I'm in whatever one of those financial non-divorce divorce situations. What does the woman walk away with listening to us or a man walk away? Like, this is happening to everybody and I'm okay. No, I'm not okay. Just like, what is it? What am I learning from it?
Now, I think
What can
that
I do?
if we are in any of these situations, I believe that we need to work with an independent, non biased authority.
Hmm.
Okay. Which in this case, I always call a counselor. Because there are a lot of different aspects to this, because
Right.
see, a very simple thing, a person who is not happy and contented for himself or herself, okay, cannot be angel for other people. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work for a long time. You can put on a facade for some time, facade
Mhm.
for some time, but then it doesn't work very long time. So
Yeah.
emotionally, you are suffering. Arrangement wise, you are suffering because it's not working. Like you suppose only one person is taking care of the children, then that person is overburdened. You're like we say, you need a village to bring up a child, and here we are already in
Exactly.
a new family where there's just two parents, and if they are also not working on the same team, then it's a whole lot of a burden for the one parent who's doing it. Plus, the children are suffering. I always want to tell the parents that don't think that if you are silent and not fighting loudly, that means you're doing a big favor to your children.
Yeah.
Like the children
Happen.
definitely say, yeah, would you like to tell about it?
No, I'm just saying, of course, it was many years ago. It's just that children were 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. And it's not like, even because we never spoke, we never communicated, except when it just flares up sometimes and you just have to like vent, right? And you don't even know what you're fighting about or what the issue is. But the thing is, children know, even if there's
Children know,
silence.
they sense it, and they grow in fear
That's
because
right.
they are always fearing that when is this going to explode? They are
Yeah.
always fearing that one of the parents is going to leave them.
Mhm.
Also, many a times the fights among the couple is starts with something about the children, you know,
Always. Yeah.
and the children grow up feeling that they divorced because of me or they suffered because of me. So everyone in any kind of dysfunctional marriage is suffering, which I believe is not a good thing.
In that same context, then the children grow up with that. But then, is it then better? I know it's depending on situation, to just be divorced so that they at least have something, even though that stigma that they have or whatever pain they felt of the parents separating, getting divorced, is probably
So nothing is
lifelong.
absolute when we talk about you. You cannot
Correct.
say that this situation is good and this situation is not good. Even
Correct.
after divorce, the parent who's taking care of the children is not emotionally stable. That's not good for
Hmm.
the child either, right? Definitely, one parent is better than two regularly fighting parents. Okay.
Sure.
But
Hmm.
if that parent itself is not able to manage her or his own life emotionally and mentally and financially, it's not good for the kids in that way either. So again, like I always tell people, when couple come to me and I always ask them, what do you want?
Hmm.
What do you want? If you want to stay together, let's work in that direction. If you want to
Yeah.
separate, let's work in that direction. Both of these going to need work, a
Yeah.
lot of work. And
Yes,
also this is
indeed.
a special topic that I work on, that if you want to stay together, one of the very big topic of our conversation would be about children, how you are managing the children. And if you decide to separate, again, a very big topic would be how would you manage the children when you are deciding to separate.
Absolutely. Yep. Well said. All of this resonates with me. Hope resonates with people who are in the situations. But the idea is that you need to find a way to not to vent, but to be able to solve and resolve whatever it is that you're going through.
I have a question, I don't know if you can help me with that, is what it would take for someone in such a situation to be honest with themselves, what they really want and what they really.
Well, it is a very tough question, right? I mean, this honesty is another word that's used so bandied about so easily. I mean, honest with yourself is first, right? Am I being honest with myself is the hardest thing to do. It's only then that you're honest with yourself that you can then be able to communicate. Sit someone down and say, okay, can I just, I just want to have a conversation about something and what I'm feeling. So I think you start with yourself by saying, hey, I feel this way.
Right.
I'm being honest about my feelings. I'm not saying you are this and therefore I'm being honest. People think honest means you speak whatever comes to your mind without regard to the other person's, how they take it emotionally, right? So we don't realize the impact we are having on the emotion of the person you're speaking with. So even though
Okay.
you're making them the subject of your anger or your frustration, I mean, this applies to pretty much everything in my life, in my coaching work that I do with with individuals. Intimacy of a relationship, it makes it even harder because you're emotionally tied, and it's so hard to be honest with yourself. Because
Yes.
unless you're honest with yourself, because all it is, honesty to me means you're communicating what you feel, not about what the other person is or is. It's his fault or that's, he's wrong, he doesn't understand, he doesn't understand. So we constantly complain about what's outside of us. So all the work I do for everything you feel inside is inside of you, not outside
Very,
of you.
very rightly said, Raju. So when you were asking that, what should they do in such situation? What's the take home? And I say that, they should definitely seek counseling. As if you
Mhm.
feel there is anything which is not right with your marriage, please seek counseling. But
Yeah, sure.
I think I mention it in almost all my sessions is that when they come for counseling and they are usually very actively participating till the time they can complain about their partner,
That's right. You
and
said
they
that
would
before. Yeah.
seek appointments and they would talk and they would really talk and keep telling about, once he did that and then she behaves like this and she did this to my mother and he did this to
Yeah.
all of this thing. And after all of this, when it comes down to actual work, and I start working on each one of them individually, and it's about you. One
Hmm.
question which I always ask them individually is, suppose your partner never changes, what do you want?
Hmm.
Because if he's not willing or she's not willing, we can't do anything about it. It's their choice whether they want to change or not. So if suppose they decide never to change, they are happy the way they are,
Right.
what do you want?
That's a very good question always, right? For everything in life. What do you want?
Absolutely. Everything. What do you want? And you need to get them beyond that, he should change and she should change and he should do this and she should. And once we finally reach that border, it starts becoming uncomfortable for them because now it's about you,
That's right.
right? Like when I separated from my husband, I had this lot of things that about, he did this and my in-law this and that. Trust me, I was a counselor. I was still reeling in that for a very long time. But eventually, I'm very glad that that did not take a very long time for me to become conscious about the fact that it's never one person. If he was wrong for me, I'm sure that I was doing something wrong for him, with his definition, whatever his definition was. I was doing
Right.
something wrong. And if I was not happy, there was something I was not doing for myself. And if I am not doing anything for my own happiness, what right do I have to expect the other person to change their life and
That's right.
thoughts and thinking and behavior to make me happy?
Yeah.
So that is what I learned very early on, and that helped me really to get along from on the path of the separation because every time I would have any kind of regret or anger, I would ask myself, why did I separate? And then the answer would come is because I wanted to be happy. And why are you not being happy? Now you don't have any restrictions, reservations, other person. What is stopping you now?
That's
Right?
right.
So if I am again and again blaming him even today, he's not responsible. He's long gone. Right?
That's right.
Today it's my responsibility. So
It
like
always
that's
is.
yeah, it's always my responsibility. And that's what you when you were saying that, taking self the responsibility of yourself. It's not always
Yeah.
that taking responsibility means you're wrong. Taking responsibility simply means that whatever you want to create. Just taking it.
So you know the work I do, and you know about this. So conscious is the first step. And then I say bold conscious in everything I do in other parts of my life. It's about, are you being bold? First, you identify honestly with yourself. What do you want, as you say? I'm becoming more aware of this. And then when it comes to a relationship like this, then I have to be a little bit more bold to communicate, right? So I'm honest with myself. I finally get it. I'm responsible for what I'm responsible for. Then I'm able to come from the position of honesty with me because I'm not blaming anything outside of me. So I think that's, if there's a way for people to, when they're starting, as you say, young people are getting married and going through these issues, they want this freedom and be able to do everything they want to do and be committed. I think it starts there because you have to go back and say, when you're on a health kick and you want to be, fit in the gym, etc., you say, well, why am I doing this? The moment you want to quit that gym or quit this relationship, it's first about, why do I have this relationship to begin with? What you don't realize is you're going to change. You're changing all the time. And you're not the same person that got engaged or, fell in love with this person. And then, some years go by and you are a different person. You're evolving every day. So in that, it's a question of a commitment of walking together because you don't know what's coming next.
Right, very rightly said. And I would like to add one example over here. Now,
Sure.
this is between me and my daughter, but again, it's a relationship thing. Whenever there's a problem in a relationship and the other person tries to tell you that, this is the problem which I faced with you, our tendency is to get defensive, right? And then without listening to them, we start proving to them what I did right and how I am doing everything right and you are doing anything wrong. And being defensive, you miss the total point that they are trying to tell you that they are hurt. And I have
Yes.
experienced this with my daughter for a very, very long time. And every time she would question something I did as a mother, it would directly hit that soft spot every mother has, that I am a good mother. I need to know that I am a good mother, that I've done everything right for them. But then one day, the children do turn back and tell you, no, you've not done the right thing at all. And then I would get defensive all the time. And then we would get into this fight and everything. One fine morning, it was just aha moment. It just came to me, and I wrote to her that I am extremely sorry. When you were hurting, I could not listen to you. Now I understand. I may have done everything right, but you still could get hurt. And I acknowledge that. And
Beautiful.
that day, there was nothing left to fight about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I acknowledged that, yes, definitely she was hurting. Right? So there's nothing left to fight about now. Now, how you want to take it further is different. But can we acknowledge that the other person can be hurt?
And that doesn't mean it's one and it's done because some things could come up again.
Exactly. I mean,
But you set the foundation for the opening, right?
you could have done, said, did things out of different intentions, but they could
That's right.
still hurt the other person. So what's the problem in
Absolutely.
acknowledging it? So then I think that's a whole lot of counseling thing we are talking about here today. But then
We should
this
have a
exercise
subject about children too, because I know we're talking about relationships and marriage, but it's not just about the marriage. I think relationship to children is also important, right?
definitely. So we would talk
And
about
team members or whatever. Those are things we will continue.
definitely.
Yeah, we want you guys listening, watching, to tell us what it is that's of interest to you, what challenges you face, and how we can, explore a topic for you. So are there any closing word, Sapna, before we end this?
So all this the reason for taking up this topic was basically to be aware that things are happening. Even if something is
Yes.
not right with my marriage, not something that that I have to be ashamed of. Basically, that's what I try to tell people, that all the marriages, all the couples have their own unique challenges. And also, please don't try to explain yourself to your friends or your relatives, because what's going on behind the closed doors, no one else can ever actually understand. They will always try to tell you, you have to try to understand, you have to make it work. But it's only you who knows whether it's really working for you or not. Everything cannot be put into words, right? Whatever you are suffering cannot be put into words. But if you feel you're not happy, please see a counselor. Please see that, because you deserve to live a happy and contented life.
Excellent. Well, on that note, we will say goodbye for this episode and watch for the next one, which is going to be very interesting. It's loneliness, but loneliness in a committed relationship, not the same thing that we just talked about. Tune in. We'll see you on the next
And we'll see
episode.
you soon.
Yeah. If something in today's conversation stayed with you, well, sit with it. That discomfort is telling you something worth listening to.
Before thinking of who needs to hear this and who needs to change, try to introspect. We read every comment and message and reply them personally. Tell us what come up for you.
And if someone in your life actually does need to hear this, send it to them. That might be the most important thing you do today.
Subscribe so that you never miss a conversation.
See you in the next episode.